Every great champion knows that success, overcoming, and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself. How you doing? It is summertime and the living is easy, and I hope that you are doing something cool, something fun somewhere, as I said last week's show. And yeah, it's getting warm. It's getting hot in here where you are. Most people like triple digits, so it's getting hot. And but hey, let me just remind many of us who live in short summer climates, don't complain too long, because October, November will come and you will be wishing it was 85 degrees. Hey, I want to jump into a topic that obviously the whole world knows by now, and I'm coming in with really just a aftermath conversation on it, but I think it's important nonetheless. And obviously we were witnesses to a historic American event on Saturday with the attempted assassination of a former president and a current candidate for the presidency. And many of us witnessed history to see that play out in live sort of form. We may not ever see that again. Many of us, I'm not old enough to remember the Kennedy assassination in live or the Reagan assassination in live, but here we have another historical event that has shaped the political landscape again. And regardless of what side you're on, this is not about sides, right? We quickly jump on that. Well, are you Republican? Are you Democrat? No, I'm an American citizen that witnessed an attack on democracy. And so that's what really I'm responding to, and to find out, was the attempted assassin successful? And clearly in this time with 3 seconds, head turn from former President Donald Trump that he was not. But this is not about felonies. I've heard so many people say, well, he's a felon, and, he lied, and, he's got all these criminal things. It really is not about that. So, are we saying now that if somebody is a liar, a felon, and a criminal, now it's okay to go out and shoot them, take them out? I don't think so. I don't think we've reached that point. But the presidency is an institution. And while no man is above the presidency, it is a protected institution in the Constitution of America. And so when someone decides that they're going to change the course of history by deleting somebody, then that becomes a real challenge. But it's not really what this podcast is about, not about that. What I really want to highlight is the iconic images and talk about that we saw Donald Trump put up. And you can see these iconic images of him holding his fists up. And of course, if you look at getting the story, then you know what was going on at that particular moment. But this is iconic, and to have that scene that would be played probably forever. And the message was fight, fight, fight. Okay. Now we could ascertain what he was talking about in that. And but I'm gonna take another spin on this. I wanna really talk about it from a different perspective, and that is from your perspective, right? While we looked at the fallout and thank goodness, that he survived that, but also, a husband, a father, a brother, a son lost their life in the process. The bullet did hit someone, and my condolences to the family that endured that loss, because it's not about politics for them. This is about now grieving and mourning the loss of their head of house that is gone, and the other two victims. And sometimes we forget that when we talk about the central character of a story, we forget that there are other people involved too. So, and the people that endured trauma, just being there, nobody went there for that. They went there to support their candidate. They went there to hear his platform, his presentation. They did not go there to dodge bullets from an assassin on a building, a few hundred yards away. Okay. But sometimes we're caught in stuff and we don't know why some people are the beneficiaries of it and some don't. I couldn't answer that. Some people, why did that person get it? Don't know. Can't answer that. That's for a bigger force and power than I can answer on this program. But what I want to talk about is just drawing something from these photos, because here again, let me put them up again. Here again, if you understand what is happening at that moment when you see these photos, right? The gunman has fired 8 shots. Okay, it has hit people. The former president is tackled down by Secret Service. They form a shield around him, and once they got the all clear that the shooter was down, he gets up. And what does he do when he gets up? You can see photo number 11 from the Daily Beast. His hand goes in the air, and the video shows him saying, "Fight, fight, fight." And of course, he's just defiant in this moment. Well, whether that was adrenaline, nerves, whatever you want to say, he jumped back into that mode and held his hand up and wanted to keep on going. So I want to ask you, have you ever been in a situation where your life has been sort of boxed in, right? It's look like you're surrounded on all sides. You've got danger, okay? I've been in situations where I just face an imminent danger. And when you do that, it could have been with a bear, it could have been with a mugger, it could have been with some of you have been assaulted and had weapons drawn on you. You look in different countries. Maybe the country that you live in has done some things where you were put in the middle of a dangerous situation, and you had to decide at that moment, how am I going to respond? I'm in the situation. I didn't ask to be here, but I'm going to have to choose how I respond. That's kind of the takeaway here. You got to take away the politics. Okay. Take away that part of it and think about an individual who finds himself caught in a situation that he didn't plan on for that day. Even with all the protection that he had, it couldn't stop that from coming. Now, we can debate whether that should or shouldn't have, but it still came. And so sometimes things happen. You get in an accident. I know friends that have been in terrible accidents, and we were concerned about their safety. We've seen people recently. There was a story of I believe she was not a legislature, but she was a cabinet member or a former CEO of a company. She drove a car into a lake, right? All of a sudden, she's in a critical situation. It's a life and death situation. Now, if any of you've never been in that, then you can't relate to what I'm kind of alluding to. So this probably doesn't apply for you. You can probably just, not finish it. But anybody that's ever been in a life-threatening situation, your adrenaline starts pumping. You have 1,000 thoughts going through your mind, and you have to see. Or maybe you've had a prolonged situation and you walked in that day and the doctor gave you news you were not expecting to hear. Okay. Have you ever got a phone call you were not expecting to get? Okay. So any of those examples that puts you into a danger, a fear, uncertain outcome is kind of what I'm alluding to. And when your dream has been put on hold, you were expected to get a yes that would have launched your dream into the stratosphere. Instead, you got to know your dream went on hold, dream deferred, dream put on hold. Okay. I know a lot of people have had athletic careers that they were going to be great athletes, and all of a sudden they got a career-ending injury. It's over. Now, what do you do? So I think at some point, all of us are going to find ourselves in dangerous type situations, certainly not like the former president found himself in, but we're going to find ourselves in life situations. And if you haven't found yourself there, wait, one's coming. But you're going to have to decide in that moment how you move forward. Will you jump up and say, fight on, let's go? or will you recoil to the moment? I can tell you, right, that some people would have not gotten up off that platform like that. Some people would have stayed down there and let the Secret Service take them out. Okay. Some people, like the firefighter, would not have thrown himself on his family. We said, well, his family, he wouldn't do that. I'm going to tell you, there's some people that wouldn't have done it. Okay. And I'm not dispersing any person, but I'm going to tell you, there's some families that have some dysfunction. And maybe at that moment, guy would have tried to save himself. But this husband selfishly threw himself on his family in that moment. He made a critical decision in a moment where his life was in danger, clear danger. And so we're going to find ourselves in that. So number one rule, when those kind of situations, your adrenaline shows, number one is you can't panic, right? Somehow you have to keep your faculties about you. I remember years ago, one of my staff, one or two of them, had went to the bank for the company and was simply going up stairs. I think the bank was on the second floor, and they were coming down, and all of a sudden the elevator just dropped down, and it was hung between floors, and they couldn't get out. Right? There's not enough air in there. They're caught in there. They're trapped. And so I got a call to go down there and check on her. And so I'm talking to her through the elevator. And the first thing I kept saying is, Vicky, don't panic. We're going to get you out of here. Not sure how, but we're going to panic. First responders are on their way. So the first thing I wanted to do was keep her calm in that situation so she didn't lose it. Because what happens is people lose it. They go crazy. They go berserk in those kinds of situations. Imagine somebody shooting over your head and firing an AR-15 at you. Look, you could lose that. And nobody would have faulted anybody from going crazy and running and doing whatever they had to do in that moment. But it takes a certain kind of individual to have a steeliness to not panic in that moment. And so sometimes, if you're a mom and you're protecting your children, you can't panic, right? People that have been on planes, the plane starts to go down. You're in a terrible situation, but they tell you, make sure you put on your face mask, your air mask first, and then you put your child on. So there are just so many of these situations that I thought, as I saw that, and really it was his response that triggered that he summoned the courage to regain his composure, ask for his shoes, which was kind of an unusual request, and compose himself and walk off that stage and, threw this defiant thing up. And I love that about the human spirit that can do that. But you got to have that fight on spirit. Don't let anyone take your dream away. Don't anyone take your joy away. Take your life away. And people will do it. Here's a total stranger trying to take somebody's life away. Regardless of what the person's politics is, good, bad, or indifferent, you don't have the right to do that. I just saw some very insidious posts on social media after that. I'm thinking, what are these people thinking? Have we become so dehumanized in our culture that we think it's okay to take somebody out because of something they did or didn't do? It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to start making, because, you start making people enemies, and maybe you become an enemy. Maybe you're part of a group that somebody says, let's take that person out. So we have to be careful how we marginalize individuals because of politics or their economic standing or disadvantage or situation in life. But really, it's about how we would respond if we were put in there. So the question I have to you, if you were put in a similar situation, or if you've been put in that situation, reflect on that and how your mind responded. Here's why it was so important. The reason why that firefighter's family is walking today is because of what he did in that moment. Okay. The reason why we see these iconic photos of Donald Trump is because of what he did in that moment. So what we do in that moment will matter. That wife and those two daughters are super grateful to their father and husband who shielded them with their body in a second, didn't even think about it. What will you do? Will you stand? Will you hold your ground? If you were accused of a crime that you didn't commit, and they're trying to convict you. Happens in America all the time. There are people that spend 10, 20, 30 years in prison for a crime they didn't even commit. And yet, in those 30 years, you know what they're doing? They're raising their fists and going, I'm going to fight on. I didn't do this. I'm going to fight on. And we have a tendency in America, in the court of public opinion, that you are guilty until you prove yourself in it. So imagine that the whole world lines up and says you're guilty, but you know you didn't do it. You've got to, in that moment, decide, I got to fight. How you last for 30 years. Nelson Mandela was put into prison for acts that really did not match the crime. 27 years he fought. So you got to have the fight in you. When you're put in a situation, you can't go get the fight. Fight's got to be there. And so I'm just encouraging us to think about, yeah, the political part of this, and it'll continue to play out. But what I just got was the fight, the symbolic symbol of I'm going to still fight for what I believe in, right? Many of you are out there still fighting for your dream. There are people that have tried to put your dream under arrest. There are people that have tried to destroy your dream. There are people that have tried to deny you advancement, have denied you opportunities, and you've had to decide, do I hold, do I fold, or do I raise my hand and say, I'm going to fight on? I have been fighting for my dream for over 3 decades, and I'm reaching a point now where I can taste it. It's getting close. But you know what I had to do through downturns and markets and bankruptcies and deaths and loss and hurts and pains and setbacks? I had to raise my hand many of a time and said, I'm going to fight on. Only a champion knows this. Only a warrior understands what I'm saying. If you're not a warrior and you're just kind of passive and que sera, sera, and whatever will be, and it was meant to be, and that's how you live, then I'm probably not making any kind of sense to you. But if you've ever had your life put in trouble, had your life near misses, near accidents, misses, where you know you should not have walked away from that situation clean, then this message is for you to kind of, I'm not saying relive that, but think about that as you fight to move on for what you believe in, for your life, for your family, for your community, for where you live. I think I hope this is a moment where we can get, number one, that it unifies. And number two, we get a fight on. So I said, number one is don't get paralyzed. Number two, think about others. Okay. I'm sure Trump had the rest of those people on his mind when he did that. That husband had his family on his mind when he leaped over them to cover him. You got to think about other people, right? Because your decision can impact other people. I remember being on an elevator with a woman, and we got on the elevator, got elevator stories today, and the elevator shook. And she immediately says, oh my God, we're all going to die. And I stopped her and I said, whoa, no, we're not. I'm on this elevator. We ain't going down. This elevator is going to be fine. And of course, we made it to the ground. But had we followed her lead, we would have all jumped into a panic mode. I'm thinking about the elevator situation in 9/11, where the CEOs were trapped in the elevator, had no idea that the buildings were on fire, that they had been bombed, but they're trapped in the elevator. And it took a window washer, a low-level window washer, who realized the threat, the danger, and came up with a plan and shimmied that door so they could crawl out up into the men's room and escape, get down the stairs out before that building tumbled down. It's what he did in the moment. So it's the panic. It's thinking of other people, right? And keep a faith. Keep a belief that somehow going to get through this. I know this is crazy and everything's going wrong, but we're going to get through this. You've got to keep your head. Too many people panic. They lose their head because they're not used to tough situations in life. And all of a sudden you throw them in one and they lose it. I've had stories of Grant Cardone. Many of you know who he is. You know, he was telling a story about being in Las Vegas at the time that the shooter was shooting and going off on that concert crowd. And he got locked into a room with some people and they were just in a panic, screaming, yelling, you know, coming off their drinking fest. And he had to tell that woman, you got to calm down. You got to calm down. We're going to be fine. We don't know how yet, but we're going to be fine. Somebody has to take the lead in every crisis. Is that you? Or will you wait for the first responder? or will you wait for someone else? If your kids are in jeopardy, can you take the lead? If your family's in jeopardy, can you take the lead? If your neighbor's in jeopardy, maybe you don't even like him that much, is there in jeopardy? One of the greatest things I see when accidents occur on the freeway, and we'll see people just stop, jump out of their car, and go render aid, right? I think that's the greatest thing to see that. So I think we all need a little fight on spirit in us to remind ourselves that at any moment in time, we could find ourselves in a situation we didn't ask to be in. And we're going to make some important decisions in that moment. Maybe you won't do what Donald Trump did, or maybe you won't do what the firefighter did, but you're going to have to do something in that moment that lets you look back on that moment and say, I did the very best I can. I didn't let that situation scare the hell out of me. I didn't let that situation knock the shout or the courage or the warrior out of me. So I'm just challenging us to think about this while we have this moment fresh. Fight on. Find the spirit within yourself to keep fighting for what you believe in, for what you want for your life, for you, what you want for your assignment and your mission. Hey, it's a quick pick. Thank you for joining us. Before, tell a friend, share the video, subscribe. I enjoy that. We appreciate you joining. We'll see you on another edition of Lewis Howard Live. Every great champion knows that success, overcoming, and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you